Hey everyone, welcome to Template Titans, the show where we dive deep into the world of Notion templates and Notion businesses to talk about the creators behind them. My guest today is Hunter Bohm. He's the founder of Profit Pilot, which is a company that helps agencies and business owners streamline their backend processes with custom Notion workspaces and AI systems. Hunter has a newsletter called the Productive Solopreneur, where he teaches people how to build power-packed systems for solo success. This episode is special because Hunter has a service-based business, and I think a lot of current Notion template creators could grow into and learn from his successes right now. And so with that, let's get into it. Hey, Hunter, thanks for coming on the show today.
Hey, Nick. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Can you give a quick background on yourself and how you got started with Notion?
I probably have more of an unconventional Notion story. I hear a lot of people talk about how they've been using this software for years and years, but I actually only got discovered with it last year, 2022 in September. I was trying out a bunch of different softwares for managing school, like all my classes and notes and homework and stuff. And I think the first one I tried was like Microsoft Planner, and it was awful. Found Notion through Thomas Frank's Second Brain video on YouTube, and I bought it, looked into it, and I was like, wow, I love this. I just want to build it for myself. I wish I could customize it the way I want it. I didn't know how to do that yet. So I just kind of reverse engineered how I build it with tons of YouTube videos, and slowly became my biggest hobby.
Nice. And yeah, the most common answer to that is always like Ali Abdaal. Like the last 3 or
Mm,
4 people I've talked to have been introduced to Notion through one of like Ali Abdaal's video. You think you're the first person who said Thomas Frank, which is awesome. How did you find his like ultimate brain system? Did you end up using it a lot after you bought it?
yeah, I think I used it for at least a solid month after I bought it, just learning the ins and outs of his systems and how it worked. I think it came on randomly, honestly. It was just like up next in the YouTube suggested. I wasn't watching content related to like Notion or anything. I'm pretty sure I was watching YouTube videos on productivity, so I
Mhm.
could like repurpose them into threads with my unique takes. And Second Brain, Manage Your Digital Life popped up, and I was like, that's cool. I don't have Second Brain, but it sounds like I should.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I didn't know I needed this, but now I think I need it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely big problem awareness.
I saw on Twitter that, and correct me if this is wrong, but I saw on Twitter that it took you about 129 days to transition from your past life working at Amazon to running your own business. And so what prompted you to make that switch?
I hated my life, quite simply. I mean, I think that if you really want to make it work, and as fast as I did in 129 days, I believe it was, you just need to be running. You need to run away from something powerful enough to get you out the door. Like Alex Hormozy says that there's two types of people, entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs. And when I heard that, that's when I was like, man, I'm not doing anything. I think I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm not building anything. So I knew it would be a long process. And I had a lot of failed newsletters and YouTube channels and everything before. I joined Twitter on November 29th. And from that period, it took me 129 days from joining Twitter to leaving my job. I started my first venture business, like actually doing something, on April 29th of 2022. I started like a finance newsletter because at the time that's what I was majoring in college. And, I didn't know how to write. I didn't know how to design, build an audience. I asked everybody I knew in real life to subscribe because I didn't know how else to get subscribers.
Yeah.
But that eventually, developed all the skills of long form content writing and designing and all of that sort of stuff that I eventually took to Twitter. And that's where I found some momentum and success, and started combining tools that compounded on each other and skills that I learned like Notion, writing content, designing. And now with AI, it's really become quite the skill set.
And so you were working at, was it an Amazon warehouse?
I was working there until May of 2022, and then I got a job as a valet. And I did that. So this is kind of like a testament to what I mean of, if you want something, like I wanted to quit my job and live a better life. Like it's all been about control for me. I want the freedom and control to control my time, just do anything I want to. So I got a job at a valet making minimum wage, which is $7.25 an hour in Wisconsin. I was making 22 at Amazon, but I chose to take a big pay cut because it gave me a lot of my time back. And, when you weren't busy at valet, you can just pull out your laptop and get some stuff done. And I couldn't do that at Amazon. So I opted to do that for more opportunistic of my time because I never wanted to get a real job after college.
Yeah. You made that switch, and now like 129 days kind of happened. And then once you decided, I guess, you wanted to change your life and really kind of take it under your control, like what did you start to do? And did you have a couple attempts of making businesses, having ideas, trying, failing before you ended up on this idea you have for Profit Pilot?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you talk about just started ventures like the newsletter, I don't run that anymore. I just stopped because it was, not high leverage activity. I had a YouTube automation channel I tried to grow, failed because I wasn't consistent. I tried drop shipping, paid $300 for the Aheza course, but that taught me a lot about website building and like conversion rates and stuff like that. At the time, I thought everything I was doing was just nothing. Like it was never going anywhere. But then I found Claudia Stelner on Twitter. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her. She's a
No.
14-year-old writer.
Okay.
And she's got a good following. And at the time, she had a course called The Consistent Writer. And she was talking about how she monetized her Twitter in X amount of time with X amount of followers. And the biggest problem I was having with writing on Twitter, as most people do when they're starting, is you don't really have a frame of reference to talk from. Nobody's going to believe what you're saying because who are you, Unless you've done something really cool you can speak experiences from, that's something. But at the time I didn't. And she said to just show up for 30 days in a row and write 30 threads. So I did it. I was committed. I'm going to write every single day and we'll see what happens from there. And I mean, it probably took me 11 days of writing online to make my first dollar from digital income.
I feel like that's pretty good. Like from like 0 to 11 days you made. What did you sell? Like a class or a template?
It was a template at the time. It was a curate. I mean, this probably sounds cliche, but it was like a curation template of entrepreneur resources. But I only think that's cliche now because I see a lot of people do it. But at the time, there wasn't a lot of that crowd. And I just made things that I look back 2 years ago, like, what could I give myself that I would have loved to have and needed to get started? Like all the tools and books and podcasts I listened to relentlessly. I mean, at Amazon, we weren't allowed to have phones out or talk to people or like do anything besides our job. But at the time I had long hair, so I snuck my AirPods in and I probably consumed 45 hours of podcasts a week from Alex Hormozy, My First Million, like all those guys. And absorbing that, and thinking about scale eventually led me to Profit Pilot, which at first was a personal brand done for you website or service agency.
Okay.
Because that's the only thing at the time I knew I could do and skill I could monetize. Eventually I started helping my friend out with her not Notion business, her social media marketing agency. So I built some custom systems for her. She said businesses would definitely think this is valuable, but I didn't pay too much attention to it. I got my first, around, I think it was March, I got my first client for my service agency. But previous to that, I was
March of this year, like this March.
This March. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping around a bit, but my first ever Notion income from service work was $250 I got from a Fiverr gig because I listed a bunch of, I didn't really know. I knew at the time Twitter Inbound wasn't going to be as lucrative as it is now. But I had some Fiverr listings up. I got 2 clients actually from Fiverr. First one was $250. The next one was $600. And then I pivoted towards really focusing on the service agency with my Notion skills. And then I got a client for $1750 a month. And I was like, all right, I'm quitting. Like I'm going full time. I can
Hell
live on
yeah.
this enough to scale.
It seems like you really focused on learning and just absorbing all the information you can from all the podcasts. Alex Hormozy, which is funny, you're the second person today who's mentioned Alex Hormozy, and I had no idea who he was this morning. And then today I've heard his name twice and binged a
I
couple of
have
his
it
like
with
YouTube
me.
video. Sick. Yeah, there you go. And so that's amazing. But it feels like you like had this mental switch and then you figured out, okay, I just need to consume a bunch of content and like learn and absorb and then try things. And
Mm,
then you kind of ended up now running this Notion service-based agency.
yeah. I mean, a lot of Hormozy's advice I just applied. I haven't even finished $100 million offers. I got to page 24 or something. I was like, oh, I took that idea and just ran with it. And here we are now.
And so you landed your first client, 1750 a month, I think you said. And so how many clients do you have now a couple of months later?
I have 2 clients right now, but they're a much higher rate because my agency now I pivoted towards the subscription model. Kind of like I got inspiration from Brett Williams, founder of Design Joy.
Yeah.
He does a design subscription business model. And the problem with a lot of Notion work is it's very project based. Like create the template once, the customizations, and it's done. So I really wanted to get away from that. And at first I was like, I was kind of fabricating ways of making this sort of a recurring thing. I tried creating lead magnets for ghostwriting agencies and stuff
Mhm.
like that. But eventually I landed on finding that the businesses that you provide the most value to are the ones who can afford your service. There's something to be said about higher prices is indicative of your confidence and your ability to deliver results.
Yeah.
So now, I mean, if somebody books a call with me and they see the charge is 3K a month, then they know that they're going to get really great results because I wouldn't put that price up there if I couldn't deliver.
Exactly. Yeah. I used to hire when I was working my career, I would hire freelance writers to write for the blogs of whatever company I worked at. And I would put out applications and ask people to send me their rates. And the people that submitted higher rates always had better quality. There was always a gradient of people who were cheap and their quality just wasn't good. And then the people who knew their value priced themselves higher. And it was apparent. So it's kind of like obvious. And it sounds like you're doing the same thing where you put a high price tag on it. People who can afford to pay that price are honestly probably better clients too. You don't want the
Oh,
person
yeah.
who's going to like nickel and dime you and try and
Hmm.
like negotiate you down. So if they can afford to pay it, they're probably a good client to work with and they already have like faith in the value that you can bring because you're charging that much already.
Exactly. I mean, after having worked with like the $600 client, you know, the $600 was most likely a higher percentage of their overall net worth or revenue. So they really needed to squeeze every piece of value they could from what they were paying me. Whereas if somebody can afford $3,000 a month for, the service I'm providing, then it's most likely that that 3,000 is a lot more money than 600, but it's a smaller percentage of their revenue or net worth. So they don't need to squeeze as much. They're not as demanding and needy, really.
So how do you talked about how you kind of like pivoted towards more of a subscription model. And so how do you pitch that when you're on these kind of like discovery calls and talk through the value of, hey, here's why this is a like recurring thing and not just a one-time project fee?
Yeah. So this took a lot of trial and error and iteration to really figure out how I could do this, but it kind of came along naturally in a sense, like in due time. So previous when I was making 1750 from the one client, I was thinking to myself, and I had this lofty goal I posted all over Twitter saying I was going to be at 100K a month by the end of the year. And I don't say like previous to that in January, I said I'm going to quit my job by summer. I quit by March. So it's the social contract,
Yeah.
people are holding me accountable. And that drives more risky and opportunistic investments. So I was making 1750 a month and I was like, okay, I want to level up, but I know that the average of who you're spending your time with. And around, my physical area, there's not people doing exactly what I'm doing or even similar. So I invested in a mentorship, I was paying $1,900 a month.
Wow.
So I was, willing to go cash flow negative for the investment because I knew like, if I'm spending this much money, I have to go and make it. Like it's not an option anymore. And that really drives you to make better decisions, I think, that are more opportunistic. So in that group, actually, it's full of 7, 8, 9-figure founders. I found one of my first clients for the business operations streamlining. And that was, a 6K package project work. And I found out that you can build up the custom systems for them, but as the business scales, like there's always going to be this. Can we add that? Like, can we change this around? Can we build this feature? Like, I want to do, X, Y, and Z. It never really ends when you're scaling. So that's where I found that the subscription model worked out the best because they can budget for it.
Got it. And so you like it's the subscription, it's like both the initial like build and setup and then the ongoing maintenance of as things come up, you're there to constantly like tweak and evolve and improve the systems that you helped them build in the beginning. And that's kind of why it's recurring.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the systems that you set up to get simplistic productivity and effectiveness in UI, you kind of need to have a complicated backend to make everything really robust. And I mean, like nothing slips through the cracks. So in order to do that, it takes a little bit to, see how the team works. It's really important to start with the team and adapt to their processes, not just build something that you think is going to work because you're not the team. Like you're not in their position.
And so you come in and you have to do your own, I guess, discovery once the engagement has started. You have to get to know the team and understand what their processes are, and then you come in and you build something kind of based on what they're doing, but better, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot. Just making everything incredibly more robust and holistic is really important. I see a lot of people when they're building their workspaces that they don't think about, I want to go to this place and see everything I need to see. I don't want to click into however many things and get distracted because that's the problem that most people have with Notion is it can be very distracting with the wrong setup.
How do you figure out what to build them? Is it just kind of based on your experience over time and now doing this for like a couple of different clients? Is it kind of the same for everyone, all your clients, or is it different really for each of them?
I mean, they all kind of start the same in the sense of there's, everybody needs a project and task manager, et cetera. But then after you build the wireframe for them, that's when you start to add the different things that are specific to them. And honestly, I got good at it because I'm a lazy person. Like I want to create the best system to help me do X and Y in the most productive time possible. In my view of productivity is how long does it getting more done in less units of time.
Mhm.
So I just went through and I've built countless and countless systems, probably over 100 different systems, trying managing, getting things done and tasks and projects. And eventually the systems I built for myself worked so well. So when I got on a call with these clients, I mean, originally all I had to do was show them like my personal setup and they were, well, yeah, this will work.
Wow. Okay. And so do you have kind of a repeatable base template you use? So like if you sign a client today and you start, tomorrow or next week or whatever, do you have kind of like a foundation thing you'll come in and say, hey, this is like the base, and then you build on top of that once you learn how their business is operating right now?
Yeah, it's pretty much exactly like that. I have, a product suite of certain tools that are most useful and effective, and then I'll implement them. We'll go through the processes and how we can customize this for the team. And then we'll take a step back, see how everything is doing, look at bottlenecks, and we'll go back and make, either improve, iterate, design a new system that clears that bottleneck. And that oftentimes has something to do with integrating AI into the processes.
What kind of AI integrations are you doing right now?
So, for example, I have a client that I can't name they're a 7-figure email marketing agency.
Cool.
And so they have 30 plus brands, and it's really hard to write copy for all of them. So I made a system with the new Notion feature, the custom autofill properties, that will write campaigns that are exactly in the brand's voice without having to, it creates a great first draft. I mean, obviously it's not perfect, but it reduces hours of time spent writing copy.
Wow. Are there other email marketing agencies is that part of your outreach plan to like find other people like that of, hey, I built the perfect system for you and kind of have to like rinse and repeat this thing?
Essentially, I mean, there are certain like proprietary systems that I've built for this other client that I'm talking about that I can't or won't repeat for other people because they're so bespoke to their processes. And,
Yeah.
a lot of it's becoming kind of a competitive edge, like having these sort of systems. But there's like the base template that I know will work for email marketing agencies. So yeah, I do target them, but the great thing about Notion is it's so customizable.
Wow. And so do you find that AI plays a big role in how receptive these potential clients are to you, that you've already built AI into what I've seen, like the whole fabric of your business and your website and like how you operate. And so is that kind of part of an advantage you think you have right now, is that you were just so quick to learn and adopt how to use AI and that these agencies are really interested in that?
Yeah, it's definitely something that people go, ooh, like I didn't think about that or see other people. And I see a lot of agencies now offering like AI automation agencies, but they don't do it in Notion where everything can be in one place. And that's a huge advantage. Now, adding AI to that, it's definitely a boost. But I only recently started really getting into AI and incorporating that in my, what I write about, what I build, and offering those services for my clients, which it kind of happened, I mean, a little bit by accident, but then I took action on it.
Can you kind of walk through why streamlining those like back end processes is so valuable to the point that these agencies are paying you to help them fix their own?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, nobody wants to communicate with emails. Like that gets flooded so fast. Easily things get lost. Slack messages, they're great. And I use Slack personally for, communication one on one, but it really digs into productivity if people are just chatting or they need to go to Slack to message people. But when they have these, automated systems where they can just push a button and report all the data to the client or send reviews and requests without having to go and email being, hey, this is ready, like X, Y, and Z. Instead, they can just go to their Notion client portal and see everything that they need to see. And it really increases the productivity because they don't have to mess around going to their email, going to Slack, going to check to see if clients, message them back if it's good to go. Like on the client side, they can just push a button and sends it back to the team.
Okay, so it's kind of two-way where like the agency has their end and then the client gets their own piece of it, and that is all connected together in Notion too.
Yeah, it's a massive, I like to think of it like a living organism or an ecosystem. Just, how complex everything is, but simplistic on the front end.
Is it more of your time initially to help them set it up, and then the goal is these agencies will start saving time on all this back end process work that they've been kind of like wasting away at and spend more time, serving their clients or finding more clients too?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, after implementing the systems for the email marketing agency, they were seeing, projects that used to take 2 weeks get done in 2 or 3 days because the whole team can be, oh, like this person's lagging over here, but I completed everything all today, so I'll go help them out with that. Whereas before, it was really hard to tell.
That seems like it would be a great like case study or like headline on your website of, yeah, take a process that, from 2 weeks to 2 days with your Notion system or whatever. Have you experimented with any of that language in your discovery calls or using that with like other pitches you have?
Yeah, I mean, I talk about, the different systems that I build for people and how they drive results and whatnot. I have to be careful, sometimes too. I don't want to tell people too much about a bespoke system for a client because
Yeah.
some of it's proprietary.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you find that there's a lot of agencies that compete with each other or like are in the same space that you're working with, or it's more of you've put so much work into one or a couple of clients to build bespoke things for them that you don't want to promise or, you know, give that to somebody else, you know, for a lower rate?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of competition, there is only a handful of Notion service agencies and none that quite do things that I do for people and none with, a 7-figure marketing agency as a case study. So I view competition as like a non-problem. Everyone's going to copy you. It's natural. There's always going to be a place in the market for raw talent.
Yeah. How much of your time is running this business taking on a daily or weekly basis?
I'd say on client deliverables, because that's what, like the business side of things, it probably around 5 to 6 hours a week. At the moment, it's only because I have 2 clients at the moment, which is great, manageable, so that I haven't needed to build a team. More time is spent on like developing lead magnets and AI systems, content, for the marketing channel, because
Mhm.
that's really where I've been focusing. But yeah, I mean, I build systems for other agencies. So my systems it doesn't take me long to do anything I want to do.
So before we push recording, you said that you were, maybe looking at hiring or, building a team potentially later this year. And so what are you envisioning that that team would do? And what would you do with the time that would free up?
Yeah. So eventually it's going to be to the point where it's going to be difficult to manage all of the client deliverables. So I'll be hiring some Notioneers that will help me on the deliverables. I haven't decided if I'm going to just hire employees or if I'm going to outsource some of my friends' Notion agencies, because there's some interesting ways you can do the business model where it's advantageous to both people. But I haven't quite decided if I'm going to hire or outsource yet. Down the line, it's definitely I will be hiring because that's higher leverage, having a optimized team instead of contractors. But in the short term, yeah, I'll be either contracting or hiring my first Notioneer.
Nice. And from other agencies, and I've seen a lot of agencies grow on LinkedIn. Like I spend probably too much time on LinkedIn and not a ton of time on Twitter. And there's one that I'm thinking of. It's called Refine Labs. It's like a demand generation agency, and they've built their entire business off of LinkedIn and just posting organically there. And it used to be the founder was the one going in and doing all the strategies. And then as they've grown and grown, he's kind of like the marketing and salesperson. So when you submit the contact sales form on their website, you talk to him. And he's the one who pitches you, who sells, like who just knows all the numbers that can just kind of like close quickly. Then he
Yeah.
has a whole like client services team that he passes everything off to. And so are you imagining that it's something like that where you're stepping away from a lot of the deliverable part of things and you're more of the marketing and salesperson, and you have your Notioneers who do the deliverables?
Yeah, that is the, ideal, probably second stage of my scaling plan I envision for myself. The hard part about hiring people for Notion services is it's hard to describe exactly what you want somebody to build. So this person has to have a certain knack. I can tell them something that I want done a certain way and they got to just pick it up and run with it. So ideally I'd like to just, focus on the marketing and sales and then just be the quarterback of the Notioneering team.
Have you thought through how you want, is it like a take home test or something? How do you evaluate if a person has the right Notion skills or like abilities that you want?
I did think about this actually. I don't put a lot of thought into scaling and hiring yet before I'm done with the marketing and acquisition phase because I really want to take things one step at a time. But when I want to hire, I'm just going to post on Twitter like hiring a Notioneer, send me your work.
Yeah.
And I can judge pretty well on how good somebody is by what they send me.
Yeah. There's so many Notion creators on Twitter that I bet you'll just get flooded with
Oh yeah,
with
I'm sure.
with applications. When I was sort of related, when I was hiring, again, I was hiring freelance writers. I worked at Loom for 2 years, and I posted on LinkedIn and got hundreds of applications. And the differentiator is I asked everyone to record a Loom, and Loom is just like a software tool to like record your screen in your
Oh,
camera.
I'm a paying subscriber.
Hell yeah. Oh, I don't work there anymore. I'm a big fan of the product. I have equity in the company, and so I'm still invested in Loom's growth. But And so I say, hey, like optional, but record a loom with your application. And half the people didn't record a loom. And if they had a good writing sample and didn't record a loom, I was like, you're out. Like this was like an easy thing to do to stand out. If you didn't do this, then you don't make the cut. And so, always an idea to, like have someone record a video and pitch you on something. And maybe that might be a way of like differentiating if you just get flooded with like hundreds of Notion creators all across the world, like applying for your your job.
That is definitely something I will be putting in the back burner, something to make people stand out.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So you mentioned earlier that you had this goal of like hitting 100K in revenue. And so is that your goal by I think you said end of this year to get
Hmm.
there?
Yeah,
Okay. Are you well on your way? Like how are you pacing towards it?
I'm on my way.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk too specifically in numbers right now, but with the current status of like how well the content strategy is working with lead getting booked calls and especially those people being qualified and closing, I mean, I don't think I'll have too much trouble. The biggest trouble I'll have in getting to 100K a month is building the team because that's the area that I'm least experienced in.
Yep. Okay. And so like you said qualifying. And so what are you doing to qualify people before they get on the call? Is there like questions you ask them before you get on, or like what does that look like?
Yeah, so I really hate doing cold DMs. I'll probably only do like 5 to 10 a day at most, if I do any. So what I do is just run a weekly giveaway, an AI system I build that's bespoke, and they are doing really well just because they're so unique. And at the moment, nobody's building anything like what I have done. So in the auto DM, I just ask them, hey, are you currently building a team? Are you scaling to 100K a month plus? And, based on those answers, it kind of qualifies them.
Got it. And so is it a free template that you give away? And is someone who's interested in that template kind of already probably a, potentially a good customer for you? And then the questions you DM them afterwards is what qualifies them as like yes or no.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly like that. And I think the templates are doing well because like I actually take them off of like they aren't just a lot of people say free for 24 hours. I mean, you see that everywhere on Twitter, but then they're free on their Gumroad store after. But I take them down after 24 hours and then I turn them into paid products that, for quite a penny because there's a lot of skills that go into prompt engineering and building the systems. Like it's a whole process, but now I have it systemized down where I can just, plug in one prompt and it builds an entire lead magnet for me.
Oh, sweet. Man, it sounds like you're super advanced on this like AI prompt building stuff. And so it's no wonder you're crushing it on the agency side. That's incredible.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. It's just like a matter of investing in your skills. And then hindsight's 2020. It's really easy for me to connect the dots and be, oh, that course I took by Rob Lennon, the AI content reactor, obviously is going to add to my Notion skills when they added this feature. But at the time I didn't know that. And I just knew that I wanted to learn how to prompt better. So just compounding on top of each other. Each skill becomes something Hormozy talks about, skill stacking is
Yeah.
each skill becomes exponentially more valuable adding on to the last as you learn new ones because you can compound on each of them.
Yeah. So what was it a prompt engineering course you took by, who was it by, you said?
Rob Lennon on Twitter, he's like the AI whisperer. He's pretty popular. Yeah, it was like $150. It's called the AI content reactor. It was
Okay.
about how to write, mega prompts and stuff like that about specifically content. But I just kind of, being real systems thinking inclined, I just took the framework of how he writes things and apply it to doing everything else.
Got it. And so is that if someone wanted to learn like AI tools or AI prompt engineering better, is that like based on your experience, the course you'd recommend?
Yeah, I would. Learnprompting.org is also great, but a lot of it's pretty basic.
Basic in terms of like just how you talk to AIs and how you get them to give you an output that is useful and what you want.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just so many things you can do that if it's context, if it's style of output, if it's, you know, training an AI model on certain information before you ask the task. Like there's a lot of creative and out of the box ways that you can use AI to do something for you. For example, I'll I'll bring this up because I don't think anybody else can build this. I mean, there's somebody else who could probably build it, but not that I've seen yet. Is I've been so I build AI systems for clients that are all custom and bespoke, but it takes a while to get all the prompting right. And, it's a big process.
Mhm.
So I built an AI meta system in Notion, essentially a custom system that creates me custom systems
Okay.
on the inputs I give it.
Okay. And so that is what powers a lot of maybe some of the initial work you do for clients is you tell this, hey, I need to build a custom system for this. And then that's
Hmm.
kind of what builds your foundation on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It saves lots of time.
Nice. That's incredible. Okay. So what's next for you? Like the next 3 months, going, summer break, you got, school, some fall semester coming up. What do you hope to accomplish kind of like before then?
Before summer ends, I definitely want to be at over 30K a month. And how I'm going to get there is just doubling down on what works. I did a lot of things that didn't work. And now finally with the content strategy, I'm seeing book calls and everything. So I'm just going to put my pedal to the floor.
You're not outsourcing anything on like the content side or the Twitter side or anything. It's like all just you putting in the hours.
Yeah, it's all me. The content, business, newsletter, everything in between is all me.
If you could go back and tell yourself something, either like when you're working at Amazon or before, kind of like time travel, like what would you go back and tell that like younger version of you who was like stuck in a shitty job and hating life? Like, what would you say?
This is going to be really cliche, but it's definitely the best advice. Just start. Just do something. Just do anything. It doesn't matter if you fail. Stop thinking of failures as failures. Think of them as just lessons, just learning. I mean, I never would be where I am today if I didn't mess up on all of these different YouTube channels and newsletters and drop shipping stores and TikTok accounts. Like, it will work out eventually. What got me to really actually start and do something prior to doing nothing, just thinking, dreaming about it, is the advice I heard from Hormozy, actually, of course. But he said that with enough focus and commitment and willing to iterate, any project or venture you do will work out on X timeline. If you just expand your timeline, your horizon, there's no way in my mind that it won't work out. So that's how I started, like with Twitter and the personal brand. I was like, I'm going to do this forever. It's going to work out that way. So in my mind, I was like, I'm never failing. Like, I'm just going to always do this. So there's no failing.
Love it, man. Okay. That's an awesome place to end. I feel like it's like motivational speech that you can go off and, some marching orders. So Hunter, this was awesome. I'm so stoked. If I can ever be helpful or a resource for you on anything, please reach out. It sounds like you don't need it. It sounds like you're fucking crushing it, man. And so I'm honestly just super happy for you and stoked and eager to keep an eye on your success and can't wait for that 100K a month tweet that's going to come by the end of the year.
I'm excited for it. Yeah. I should, now that you say that, I'm going to put it in my tweet hunter and schedule it.
Hell yeah. Let's do it. Let's go, man. I can't wait. I can't wait to see it. Hunter, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it, man.
No problem. Thanks for having me, man.